I'm Paul Montague, and I'm here with New Zealand Warriors Rugby League Managing Director Jim Doyle to canvass his views on some very real and relevant issues facing his sport and, in effect, all big money sport. Jim, firstly, thanks for agreeing to this interview.
No problem, you're most welcome.
That's wonderful. I'd like to begin by asking you a general question, that being, if there wasn't so much money involved in professional sport, do you think we would be seeing quite as much skullduggery as there seems to be going on such a grand scale as now?
Is that from a gambling point of view?
Yeah, I'm just thinking there seems to be, the more money that becomes involved in sport, the more sort of nefarious activity it seems to be going on with gambling, match fixing, perhaps
I think they're linked together. I mean, obviously the high profile sports tend to generate lots of TV viewership, which then generates obviously lots of people watching them, which therefore leads to more people gambling on them. You know, there's lots of sports that take place at the moment, but because they're not broadcast on TV, because they're not widely seen by, you know, millions and millions of people, there's not too many people who will gamble on it because they're not watching it. People like to have a gamble. Sometimes those people are $5 bets because they want to give themselves a extra little bit of interest. And no doubt some of those are pretty big, significant sort of bets as well. And I think because the profile of the sport is a lot on TV, which means then the sport athletes tend to get well paid. So I think it's the whole thing's all combined together.
Mm-hmm. And I was just wondering, isn't sport sort of putting itself in a precarious, almost like an irreversible position by its willingness to accept more and more betting agencies into sponsoring individuals' teams? And
no, I think it's the opposite.
Oh, right.
I think it's the opposite. I think if the sports have and keep all the betting agencies removed from the sport, people will still bet. So people will still bet using those betting agencies to bet on the product. So for me, the sports engaging with the betting agencies, to me, actually really has two key aspects. One is they get a share, so they get revenue coming from because people would bet on them anyway, right? So for example, at Rugby League, it's the NRL, the product is owned by the NRL. So why would you let someone use your product unless you're getting something in return? So the NRL engage with all the betting agencies for first foremost reason to get a share of the revenue so they can invest that back into grassroots. So at least money goes back into the grassroots rather than the betting agency getting everything and the sport getting nothing, because as I say, if the NRL didn't engage with the sporting agencies, people would still bet with them.
Mm-hmm.
The second key thing is by engaging with the betting agencies, you can get all your data. So when I was at the NRL and I run the integrity unit, we would get the data all the time from the agencies. So we could see exactly who was betting on what, when spikes took place, etc. So we could investigate them and that type of thing. And you could see what activities.
Oh, okay. So you coerced with.
Yeah. So that's a key thing about working together. We could actually get a report from them. So the NRL, for example, and you would have seen this probably a couple of years ago when we first did it, is that we banned a few players because we could get a correlation between players, staff, directors, everyone who's involved with the NRL and therefore registered with the NRL. So the NRL, 16 clubs, all the players, all the directors, me, etc., we're all registered with the NRL.
Mm.
Part of our rules is you're not allowed to bet on rugby league.
That's right. I remember the case with the North Queensland Cowboy.
Yeah. So and we banned a few players as well. So we're not allowed to bet on rugby league. So what we can do is we can take all of the data from us, all of the data from the betting agencies, cross-reference to say, is, you know, for example, Jim Doyle betting with his date of birth, etc., is he betting on rugby league?
Mm-hmm.
And if the answer is yes, then we can go and ban him.
Okay. If the NRL seems to be quite watertight in that respect, how about on an individual club level? I'd like to know, how exactly are you and the New Zealand Warriors doing your utmost to safeguard that players or others in your organisation will not succumb to temptations like match fixing or drug racketeering that could tarnish your legacy as a really highly respected organisation?
So well, there's a few things. First and foremost, we've got internal values in regards to, you know, being a role model off the field, not doing anything illegal, etc. And we constantly work. I mean, I meet with the players and all staff at least once a month, and we talk about the things that we are trying to do as an organisation, but we also talk about the things that we can't do. You know, we educate the players, we talk to them about gambling, we talk to them about drugs, etc., and how it'll basically ruin their career. You know, you've got a potential long-term career, but if you place one bet, you can be banned and potentially banned for life if you're betting on rugby league and that type of thing, giving other people information. So we really spend a lot of time educating all of our players to make sure that they're not actually involved in that.
Do you pretty much support a zero tolerance policy on
100%.
life ban, that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, we follow the NRL rules, so it'll depend upon circumstances as
Yes,
to
of
whether
course.
it would be straight to a life ban or whether it would do something.
Would you advocate
along the way.
for a life ban?
Oh, I think for me,
If it wasn't exactly the policy.
yeah, well, I think depending, again, each one's got different circumstances. You know, I mean, for example, when I was at the NRL, you'd find that there was someone who had a betting account who bet mainly on horse racing or whatever it was, and at one point in time there was a $5 bet put on rugby league, but it was their friend who used their phone to put the bet on unbeknown to the player and that type of thing. We've got affidavits, and so therefore that doesn't justify a lifetime ban. But if someone is betting continuously all the time and they're betting on themselves and that type of stuff, or they're betting against their team.
Yeah, I'm
And all
thinking
that
more
sort of
like the spot fixing sort of
Yeah, and that's,
scenario.
well, see, that's the thing, and things like cricket, you know, spot fixing's so much easier than it is in a team sport,
Yeah.
because it's an individual thing. You know, whether you do a no ball in the fourth inning on the second ball, that's much more easy for you to spot fix that. But in team sports, it's much harder because you need to generally involve much more than one individual.
Yes.
So
Actually, that case where I was talking about the North Queensland Cowboy, I think I may have been wrong. That was at Dairy Farmers Stadium. I think it was
Yeah, it was
the
a Bulldog.
Canterbury Pro.
It was a Bulldog.
It was the Bulldogs.
Yeah,
Pro.
Ryan
Yeah,
Tandy.
whereas it was
Ryan
Tandy,
Tandy.
and he
yeah,
he passed away, didn't he? Of course.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So and that's, you know, there's different sort of scenarios. So there's different levels. It's not, you can't treat everyone the same.
Yes. If there was a zero tolerance policy across the board in the way of life bans for things like spot fixing, do you think such a policy could be opening up a sport like rugby league to a whole mass of legal challenges? Would that become really problematic?
No, well, I don't think so, because it's pretty clear in the NRL rules and regulations that you're not allowed to gamble. So if a player gambled and the NRL deemed that that player is no longer a fit and proper person to be registered, they would just deregister the person.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing, no legal challenge could change that
Would there be
against
no
the
loophole
regulations.
at all that?
I'm sure some legal people would always sort of find something, but if you've been gambling on rugby league and there's a record of you being at 3 or 4 educational courses, being told, and you've signed documents each season to say you know you're not allowed to bet on rugby league and things, and then you bet on rugby league, it's pretty hard to argue against that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'd just like to go on to the whole integrity of professional sport. It seems there's sort of more and more at stake with every passing scandal. I know a guy who washed his hands of following big money sport a long time ago. I was thinking, is it therefore a realistic goal to run such a colossal broom through professional sport that those kind of lost fans are enticed into becoming followers again, or do you not see the problem as being quite that?
No, I don't see the problem being that big. I mean, we did when I was there.
Not necessarily in league.
No, I don't know the other
pro
sports.
sport in general.
But I don't think so. I think the amount of money that people are earning playing those high-level pro sports and the risk that they would put themselves under for future earnings. I mean, if you're a player who's earning, you know, I mean, obviously rugby league, you might be getting $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 a year. If you're in English soccer, you're getting that every week, basically, in some cases. And you could have that for 5 or 6 years. Why would you risk that to do some sort of bet?
So,
You know, I've read of instances where, you know, players have actually done something because their families were being threatened if they didn't do something. You can't ban someone for life for that. You know, so each one's a different case scenario. And I don't think that global sport is in such a bad disarray because of people match fixing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe cricket again is another example where it's been seems to be a bit more rife, and obviously therefore you take much more stringent rules. And you know, potentially what cricket could do is sit down with the betting agencies and say, from now on, you're not allowed to bet on certain things that make it easier for match fixing.
But there are fans out there who have become disillusioned with professional sport. I know them myself. What would you say to them to cajole them back into?
Well, I would say to them, watch rugby league. Rugby league have got really, really good processes and systems in place. It's got things like salary cap, they get audited all the time. It works with the betting agencies that audit their records against every player. So therefore, to me, there's a really good process. You can be assured that that when you're watching rugby league, you're watching two teams that actually want to win and no individuals that are trying to lose.
Okay, well that's entirely good. Do you think you will be making a run for the NRL CEO?
No.
At any stage?
No, not at all. No, for me, I'm here. I've been here just over a year. We started the journey, and it's far from finished. So I'm committed to making sure that I'm here to see that for a bit longer.
Okay, I wish you every success, and thank you for your time.
No
It was
problem.
great to talk with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
All right.
That's Paul Montague signing off. Thank you.